Can anyone explain to me how Arcane has surpassed all of our expectations with only the first 3 episodes? For this Act 1, I wanted to take a look at the scenes, moments and events that carry the most meaning. So these are my top 5 most meaningful scenes of Arcane Act 1. I'm gonna start with a rough one, okay? Episode 3 was a difficult one to watch from start to finish, and Silco really did truly terrible things during these 40 minutes. But if you understand his character, his hack with Jinx was full of emotion. Full of 2 certain emotions. First, it was a hack of compassion and understanding. Silco had a sibling too, and he was also betrayed by him up to the point of almost being killed, so he knows what she's going through. Her beloved sister told her that what made her different made her strong, and that her gadgets would end up working someday. So when Jinx believed her words of encouragement and confidence, she went on to save the day. The response she got from Vi? A punch to the face and complete abandonment. It's not fun when the most important person in your life leaves you like that. Silco could perfectly sympathize with her. But second, it was a hack of care, promising her a future. We don't know much yet about the aftermath of his fight with Vander, but we can presume how, in search of more power to fulfill his vengeance, Silco built from scratch his own empire. Eventually he gets vengeance on the man he came to hate so much, but just a couple of meters away from his dead body, the same seed of hate is born in the heart of a small girl, who is also drowning, but not in the ocean, in tears. Now that Silco was already powerful, he could give Powder all the tools she needed to make sure she gets vengeance from her sister, because Silco and Powder were much more similar than what they appeared to be. This hack mirrored the ones shown in Arcane posters. Vi is not the one taking care of Powder anymore, it's now under the protection of Silco. On a lighter note, I really want to talk about Mel. She hasn't had a big role yet in the series, she's just shown to have this urge to amass more wealth and power by supporting the inventor that comes up with the next big thing in Piltover. That's why she's so interested in what Jace is investigating. However, she has already shown she's in complete control of the situation. Mel pushed the idea of considering Jace's investigation, effortlessly made the other counselor vote, granted Jace and Victor enough time to finish their Hextech research, and quickly disregarded Heimerdinger's verdict on the artifact, pushing a council meeting to decide what to do with it. The scene in which all of this is perfectly expressed is when she gives the counselor this complex enigma for great minds, when it was actually just a children's toy. She literally laughed at his face and belittled him, while gaining his respect with her sole confidence, charisma and boldness. Because her wealth might be a core part of her character, but those 3 traits are what will be making her control the course of events during the next 6 episodes. One of the most grim events of Act 1 is Jace's descent into the darkest depths of despair. When he is found to be in possession of dangerous material, he is directly sent to jail before his hearing. When judged, his self-doubts and inner fears are awoken, and then he is denied the opportunity to continue the studies he had spent his whole life on. His mother believes that he is just a delusional kid after some childish fantasies with no confidence in his work, and the patrons that had financially supported him for years and trusted him with their daughter now don't want anything to do with him after all the money funneled into him gave them nothing. And as he seems somehow dangerous, he is now under his parents' tutelage, at 24 years of age. It's not only him reaching rock bottom, but him realizing he's seen as a failure and being denied the chance to pursue his passion for the rest of his life and prove them wrong. With the present being this bad and no possibility for the future to get better, the only way out Jace came up with was ending everything for him. All of this sudden struggle is encapsulated in this scene, leaving behind his family and his dreams, while he approaches the edge of the workshop. But then, Victor appears with the only thing that could save him in this situation, the trust of someone else. Because there can be 100 people in a room and 99 don't believe in you and just one does, and it changed your whole life. Wait, did I really bring this meme to this kind of deal? Well, yeah, I did. Kinda insane how someone believing in you is how Victor saved Jace from his end, but also by believing in Powder was what encouraged her to go to the olfactory to save Vander, destroying her life right there. Not as serious as Jace's deal, something that I found endearing happens in episode 1, when the whole gang is plundering his workshop, led by Vi, while on the other side of the wall, Jace was arriving with Caitlyn. Given how close Vi and Caitlyn will end up in the future, it's kinda cute how they were so close to each other at the very moment that everything started. This is even more curious as, while the blowing up of this building was the event that turned Piltover upside down during Act 1, I feel like the two explosions occurring at Silco's factory and at Heimerdinger's lab, and the whole Hextech craze that will be taking Piltover by storm, might override the scandal around this first incident and will not be further discussed, so maybe Caitlyn and Vi will never know that they were only a few meters apart from each other when everything actually went down. Both being in the same place since the very beginning kinda doubles down on the fact that they would end up becoming Piltover's finest. But personally, the event that had the most powerful meaning behind it was the death of Milo and Clagger. The bodies of the two friends covered in rubble left Vi and Powder speechless and caused them to fall apart. However, their death symbolized even more. Just as Act 1 ends and a new chapter of their lives start, some years older, the death of their two friends represented the end of their childhood. Their lives in Zone were not perfect at all, and if you look back on these 3 episodes, there is not a single moment in which they are laughing together. From the very first moment, they had to run from Piltover Wardens, they got into a very gruesome fight, they blamed each other, and they were constantly on the run. However, they were a group of friends, a small community, and even though they were having a rough life, they were not alone. But that was no more. Even when misery loves company, there's no more company, just misery. It's time to leave behind the cute gang you had when you were a kid and get serious. Welcome to real adult life. Of course there are more meaningful events, as most Vander's scenes show the incredible, compassionate and level-headed side of him, but they are pretty central to the plot, so I think it was easy to understand his motivations and why he did the things he did. What were the scenes that moved you the most? Tell me in the comments all about it, and your opinion on the show, your theories and anything you want. Thank you so much for watching and hope to see you on the next one. See ya!